Desperados Podcast. From the cow farm in Lehi, Utah, to the home studio, Coach Bucky Ryan and Coach Dennis Dobbs.
Welcome to the program. My gosh, it's week 4 of the Dirty D's podcast here from the farm. I'm your host, Bucky Ryan, here, as always, with my co-host, the Dennis Dobbs. Dennis, what a week. We have no more undefeated teams.
That's true. The field is split with 2-1 and 1-2.
That's right. We have 5 teams at 2 wins, 1 loss, and 5 teams at 1 win, 2 losses. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And, who's on the decline, who's on the upward bound, those kinds of things. We also, I don't know if you noticed this weekend, Dennis, but Coach Noble leaked to the media that there's retirement talks.
That's a load up.
Yeah, I did see that, so we'll hopefully get a little bit of enlightenment on what's happening in Rooney Tunes and see what's going on there.
Yeah, very interesting. They started out slow out of the gate, but really put the thumping there on Protect This House, so not sure why there would be retirement talks, kind of odd. But we will have Coach Noble on to discuss that very briefly. We will also have another guest coach. That's right, 2 interviews today. So we have a jam-packed podcast. We want to get right to it. We're also going to recap what happened last week and make our pick'ems as usual. Let's get started, Dennis. Let's recap last week.
So last week, we're going to go through these really quick. Operation Brettgate beat Primetime 190-161. We both did not predict this one. We both had Primetime winning, but did not perform as well. The next matchup, we had Protect This House versus Rooney Tunes. And Rooney Tunes, like you said, really put a thumping on Protect This House and performed really well. I did predict that one.
Yes, you did. It was close there until the Monday Night Football game, and then Patrick Mahomes and Edwards-Helaire just exploded. And it was all downhill from there for Protect This House.
They had a great week. The next matchup was not as much of a blowout. It was a close game between Tong and Brown Kid and the Dictator, with the Dictator winning by 18 points with 231-213.
And as usual, Commissioner Smith boobing that he is not getting enough attention. Your thoughts there, Dennis?
I mean, you got to go out there and prove yourself. Like, that's what we've been telling all the teams. Quit your bitching. You're going to get respect if you come out and win. And Braxton Smith came out and did that this week. This is his second week, I believe, being in 200. So, respect to B. Smith. But I think there's got to be some quit bitching out there from respect from the media.
That's right. You heard it right here, Commissioner Smith. The following game, the crapshoot, Philly, Garrett's Fantasy. And whoa, I mean, we felt bad for Garrett's Fantasy last week, but you got to feel even worse for him now. Getting thumped in the toilet bowl.
Yeah, he made a trade that I think we can analyze a little bit later, and I have a strong opinion about myself. But yes, Garrett's Fantasy did lose. Both of us predicted this one. I don't think this is too much of a shocker here with Philly winning.
And it's not. The injuries continue to plague Garrett's Fantasy. It's going to be a tough going for him from here on out. In the final game we had, that's right, I Am Your Daddy and Stapler Nation. He finally changed his name.
Yes, he did, and it didn't help him. A little premature celebration there from Addy. And to be honest, I think the whole league would be in consensus in saying once Addy came out and said that, we wanted Stapler Nation to win.
Boom.
I would 100% agree. And Stapler Nation took it to him. It wasn't by much. It was only by 12, but he got it done. And Addy ran his mouth again, and it hurt him.
Oh, you suck.
It did. And we'll do a little bit more analysis on Addy's team as they were involved in that trade with Garrett as well.
So that being said, we both won 2 games in Pick'ems. We both got the Philly game right. I got Stapler Nation over Addy, and you had Rooney Tunes over Protect This House.
Correct.
So that still puts you ahead by 1 game in our overall Pick'ems.
Correct. I believe I'm 7-8, and I believe you are 6-9.
That's correct. So 1 game up for Dennis. Still a lot to play. We are not very good at Pick'ems.
No. You can count yourself unlucky if we pick you in Pick'ems because, there's a good chance that you're going to lose that week if that's the case.
This is very true. Very true. Okay. You want to discuss a little bit the trade with Coach Addy and Coach Garrett Harris.
I did want to discuss the trade a little bit. I want to highlight a couple things. Some of them were telling this was a good trade. I want to get your analysis on that, Bucky. What do you think about this trade? The trade was Chris Carson and Jared Cook to go to Garrett's Fantasy for Devontae Adams and George Kittle.
Well, I felt like it was a little lopsided and that Garrett was getting the short end of the stick. I didn't necessarily, think that it was fair by any means, but both coaches were very vocal that they felt that it was fair and that it should be done. There was an uproar when the trade was initially vetoed.
That is true, and I agree with you. I think Garrett's fantasy team got gypped, and if I were Addison, I would be really tooting the horn here too because he came away with a steal on this one, in my opinion.
No, he totally did, and he knows it. He's not going to admit it, but he knows it, and it'll just be a matter of time before he shows the rest of the league that he went over on that trade.
And I think the thing that demonstrates this the most to me is Garrett gave away 2 of his best players for Chris Carson, who's on the field 50% of the time, and then Jared Cook is not very good. He's sitting on Garrett's bench now. So he traded away 2 starters for Chris Carson.
Who gets hurt.
I think you're just kind of shooting yourself in the foot if you're Garrett's fantasy. And for Addison, he's projected 194 points this week, which I know projections are not always true, but it's saying something that his team is stacked now.
It's true, and we're going to find out very quickly if Addy is your daddy for each opponent. It's going to be interesting. We'll see what happens and how that all unravels.
Before we jump to the next thing, I want to point out I did predict Garrett to be bottom 3 this year. I couldn't have predicted all the injuries. I'm just saying, the odds are looking good for me. I don't think Garrett's fantasy is going to make a comeback anytime soon.
Coach Dobby's hot take.
There he is with another one of his Dennis Dobbs hot takes. When he says it, it happens. So, you heard it right here on The Farm. All right, let's switch over a little bit now to retirement talks with Coach Noble. Leaked to us early Sunday morning that the Rooney Tunes organization was having doubts about Coach Noble, and maybe Coach Noble was having doubts with the organization. We don't know. We want to get to the bottom of that, and we want to have Coach Noble on. So we're going to go ahead, take a break, and we'll be right back with Coach Noble. And we are back here from the farm. I'm your host, Bucky Ryan. We have the Coach Noble here with us. Put the thumping on Protect This House this last week and is looking at a comfy 2-1 right now. But that's not what we want to talk about. Coach Noble, you leaked to the media Sunday morning that there was possible retirement talks with the organization. Can you give us a little more insight on that?
My organization and I, we've had a rough couple of years, and they're really songs to protect this house. You know what? My team still did not perform that well. I had a lot of low scores and a lot of questionable decisions that I made. One of them worked out, most of them didn't, but, you know, it's been a rough couple of years, so tensions are running high within the organization.
Was there worry and doubt at the beginning of the matchup that you were going to lose?
Oh, no, of course not. Lose to protect this house, I mean, come on. They got the curse of the power rankings #1. I mean, they're just doomed to lose that at that point. I just hope I don't get it this week, but power rankings people just put me #2. I'm fine with that. I know I deserve to be #1, but just put me at #2 so I don't get the curse. But no, there wasn't really any worry. Just tensions are running high in the organization, and you know, fantasy is an emotional game for the organization, for Rooney Tunes. We're going to take it week by week. It's just been floating around within the organization.
Would you say that you're on the hot seat?
Well, I mean, I would consider a hot seat being that the organization is looking to fire me, not me retire. So, no, I wouldn't consider I'm on the hot seat.
Makes sense, Coach Noble. Thank you for enlightening us on the news leak of the organization and you.
Oh, yeah, of course, anytime.
All right, Coach Noble, we appreciate your time, and best of luck this week on your upcoming matchup.
All right, see you later.
Oh, Coach Noble, the coach of the Rooney Tunes organization. Thoughts there on the interview?
I don't know why Rooney Tunes is thinking it. I think they gave Coach Noble another bounce back year. Honestly, I think he's one of the better teams in this league this year, and I could see him making playoffs and making a deeper run.
I agree. I think that this information that was leaked to us by Coach Noble was a little premature Sunday morning. I think he had a lot of doubts. You know, regardless of what he said, I think he had a lot of doubts that things were not going to go his way this weekend. But you know, as you've said many times, he does have a good roster, and it showed. Again, they were able to bounce back, and it worked out for him. I think a lot of it is a lot of self-doubt in Coach Noble. You know, just him being his worst enemy, and it really shows in the group text.
It does. A little bit of a negative vibes coming from Rooney Tunes.
It's right. So, you know, I want to say, you know, it's okay, keep your head up, but just shut up and win. Okay. No one's feeling sorry for you. Switching gears here, earlier in the podcast we mentioned 5 teams at 1-2, 5 teams at 2-1. Dennis, can you go ahead and read us? We'll start with the 1-2 teams. Read us the 1-2s.
So we got, okay, Addy is your daddy, Brett Gate, Garrett's Fantasy, Philly, and Primetime.
Okay, out of those 5 1-2s, Dennis, who do you see bouncing back?
I think I'm gonna go with Addy's your daddy, just because I think he got a steal. I think he lost last week because of the trade he made, but it's gonna be really hard to beat this team going forward. So I see him bouncing back and being at the top of his division.
So you think Addy is your daddy is on the upswing here?
Absolutely. I think he'll end up towards the top of his division. I don't know if I can say the top yet, because I believe the West Side is a pretty stacked division right now.
I don't know. I don't know if he can. I don't know that he can beat the Dictator, and I don't know that he can beat Tongan Brown Kid.
Like I said, I think it's a tough division, but I think Coach Wells made a very good trade to put his team in the best position possible to take over that top spot.
I think the team that's on the upswing here is Primetime. I think you can never count out Coach Morgan DeGoyer and his team. You know, even though they're 1-2, you always know they're going to put up a fight. It's hard for me to think that they won't be competitive the rest of the season.
It'll be interesting to see who emerges out of the 1-2 teams.
Switching over to the 2-1s, we have Rooney Tunes, Protect This House, The Dictator, Tongan Brown Kid, and Stapler Nation. Dennis, out of those 5 2-1 teams, who you got on the downswing?
I feel like this one's harder to answer just because a lot of the teams have proved they can win, and they can win at a high level. That's obviously why they're 2-1. I think I have to go with the team that's plagued by injuries more, and that to me is Protect This House. I know Chris Godwin is suffering from a head injury. His number 1 draft pick, Christian McCaffrey, is out on IR, and he wasn't able to pick up the backup. And so even though I think Protect This House is a good team, they're getting a lot of flack right now and everything, but because of the injuries that's plaguing their team, I think it might be hard to win some for Coach Young.
We're already putting the hate back on Protect This House after 2 strong, opening weeks, huh?
He had a great week. I predicted it last week in Pick'ems. I think the injury to Christian McCaffrey would hurt any team, and so I think Protect This House is struggling, but I mean, he could have a bounce back week with Matt Ryan and the Calvin Ridley matchup, which has proven to be deadly.
My 2-1, who I think is on the downswing. Oh boy. It's tough to say. I don't know. It makes me a little nervous how COVID is going to affect the remainder of the season. For instance, the Dictator, obviously has proved to be an elite team, but Dalvin Cook this week probably isn't going to play because their facility, the Vikings facility, is shut down. So how is that going to affect the Dictator? I don't know how deep his bench is to recover from those kind of injuries. So I'm not gonna say Dictator. I don't know. That makes me a little nervous. The bench isn't super deep. Stapler Nation makes me a little nervous with the grandpa QB, Big Ben, and I'm still not a big believer in the flex spot there, Melvin Gordon.
Melvin Gordon has disappointed.
He is disappointed. He's on a bad team. The wide receivers are shaky for Stapler Nation. Juju can have a big week one week, and then a couple 4 or 5 pointers the next week. Mike Evans kind of the same way. I think if I had to pick one, I would go Stapler Nation.
So Bucky calling Stapler Nation out, possibly being on the downswing.
You heard it right here on the farm. All right, we're switching gears now to our next interview. We are having Coach Brandon Ward on, coach of Philly, finally getting that first victory. Coach, how does it feel to get over the hump?
First of all, Coach Dobbs, Bucky, thanks for having me on. Feels good. My team was dealt a tough hand the first couple weeks. Dealing with some injuries. Had Miles Sanders out in week 1. Then been dealing with Michael Thomas the last couple weeks. So it was good. It was good to bounce back and finally get one in the win column.
Yeah, you definitely did, and you put the whooping there on Garrett's Fantasy. Is it possible that there's a rivalry stirring up here between you and Garrett's Fantasy?
Me and Garrett's Fantasy, it could be. I mean, it was a pretty lopsided victory. I know he's dealing with some injuries, a lot of injuries, all the injuries. But yeah, first of all, Boomer Sooner out there, Garrett, fell to K-State. But yeah, I can see a little rivalry brewing there. Depends on what happens the rest of the year. Typically Garrett's Fantasy is a good team, a contender year in, year out. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Coach Ward, speaking of Garrett's Fantasy, there was a controversial trade that happened between him and Addy. We just want to get your take on what you thought of the trade. Do you think it was fair? What's your take on it?
I'm big in. I don't think other managers, other coaches, should get in the way of other teams' business and how they do business with other teams in the league. For me, when I saw the trade, I really thought nothing of it. It ended up going bad for Garrett. Chris Carson got hurt on a dirty play. But I didn't really care either way. I feel like in terms of how it affects the other 8 teams in the league, I didn't think it was a big deal. I'm glad it happened at this point in the season, and we could address it as far as the other league managers and other coaches' thoughts on vetoing and what their feelings are. Certainly, if it's super crazy, someone's trading Patrick Mahomes for Dalton Schultz or something out here, then yeah, then you have to do something and step in. But no, I thought it was fine. I didn't think there was a controversy or anything big enough to spark a controversy.
What can we expect from Philly going forward?
This week we got a tough matchup with Primetime. Still not really into the team name Primetime, but that's another conversation.
What is your beef there with Primetime?
It's just a weak name, in my opinion. Go Puck Yourself was much better. Coach DeGoyer, Morgan, if you're out there listening, your old name was better. This was like a Washington football team name move, whatever. I mean, as long as another thing, you guys got really into discussing team name changes, and Tongan Brown kid was brought up by Coach Harris last week on last week's podcast, and as long as Tongan Brown kid keeps his name and doesn't change it to like Team of Pacific Islanders or something like that, I think we'll be all right. But back to the game. We got a tough matchup this week with Primetime. So hopefully a little bit of the same. Miles Sanders, he's been healthy the last couple weeks. Has produced pretty good numbers for us. We're hoping Michael Thomas finally comes back and is healthy. That'll be a huge boost for our team. And then just trying to take advantage of a matchup against the football team with Lamar Jackson. Just hoping to capitalize on some key matchups. I know Primetime, he's got Prescott playing against Cleveland, so I'm sure you can expect a high-scoring game out of Prescott. Waller has come on strong and is a top tight end in the league now, and so it's going to be a tough one for us. But I think if we can get some of the similar production we got this week going forward, I think we can start picking up wins and getting back into this. It's nice to see, at 1 and 2, we're still right in the thick of things and, can still, make a push as a top seed in the league.
That was a great win for you and really helped your team with the standings as a win over Garrett to put you back into it. One question that we had for your team, Philly, was your pick in Lamar Jackson. Are you disappointed with how he's been playing this year?
I wouldn't say I'm disappointed, Coach Dobbs. I think, it's kind of one of those things where I was at in the draft. I picked him 28th overall. Late third round, early fourth round, I believe. It's usually high for quarterback. It's certainly a lot higher than I like to pick quarterbacks, but he's just kind of one of those no-brainers. Certainly, I knew once Patrick Mahomes went off the board that Lamar was closely to follow. So, to answer your question, I'm not disappointed. We probably need a little bit more out of him, especially because my RB2 position is a little shaky. But, for the most part, he's performed, pretty decently. Had a great game in week 1. He was all right against Houston, and then, Kansas City last night was certainly not his best game, but I expect him to bounce back. He's at the end of the day, he's a winner. He's an MVP. And I have all the confidence in the world that he can help my team succeed this season.
Coach, just wrapping up here before we let you go, you mentioned in the group chat a couple days ago that possibly by the end of this season or next season that we could see a Dirty D's fantasy football app. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I really like the board of governors we have here in this league and what they all bring to the table. Certainly with Coach Ongulau, Coach B. Smith's power rankings, this podcast that I know Coach DeGoyer and Coach B. Young help just produce every week for you guys, and so I wanted to bring something. I'm happy, excited to announce Dirty Desperados fantasy football mobile app, available on iOS and Android. Basically, it's going to be a place where these podcasts will be a podcast library from years past, the current year. It'll have all the power rankings history, as well as live score updates. You can see all the scores in the league. You can see your own scores. Just kind of a league history, just a place where all the league information goes, and just keep it as interactive as possible. Tie everything together. I think we do a great job of keeping the power rankings up, the podcast up each week. But I think it'd be cool to have something where that's all in one spot. For example, Coach Ongulau rolls out a new power rankings. The league gets a push notification on their phone that's like, hey, Onguilau's rankings are out and stuff, something like that. So hopefully we can get it here late 2020. If not, it'll be a 2021 thing. But yeah, I'm excited to add that to the part of this great league.
Awesome. Well, we're very excited about that. We're really looking forward to it. Coach, we appreciate your time on the podcast, and good luck this week in your matchup.
All right, Bucky. Coach Dobbs, I appreciate you guys.
That's Coach Ward coming to us. Great interview. I thought he gave us some great insights and was real with us.
Yeah, Coach Ward is one of the better coaches in the league, and I think I can speak with everybody else, for everybody else in the league, saying that we're ecstatic and super excited for this upcoming app.
I completely agree. When he announced that, I was very pumped, and I thought that was really cool that he could come up with something like that. That's very impressive. All right, we are getting short for time, so I think we should switch over to Pick'ems.
Let's do it.
Look, if you had...
Okay, game 1 this week, week 4. We've got Tongan Brown Kid, Protect This House. Dennis, who you got?
Like I said in my predictions, I could see a downswing for Protect This House. Short story, I'm going Tongan Brown Kid in this one.
Going against Protect This House once again. I do really like Tongan Brown Kid, and I think he He's a team to be feared. I do have a lot of love to protect this house. I feel like I have to go with them, but the injuries concern me, and there's talk that maybe Pittsburgh won't play this week. James Conner there, kind of holding strong in the running back core. But I'll stick with my boys. I'll go and protect this house.
Next game, we have Primetime versus Philly. Who you got, Bucky?
Primetime Philly. Inspiring interview there with Coach Ward. Very down to earth. I like it. This is crunch time though for these two teams, 1 and 2. It's not make or break by any means, but it's definitely going to put one of them in the right direction. The running back situation still concerns me for Philly. I'm going primetime.
Interesting. I hope all you coaches know our connections with Primetime and Protect This House go kind of contradictory. If I did not choose Primetime, so I will go Primetime as well.
Next game up. I can't believe we haven't talked about this. Well, the next game's Operation Brett Gate. I like the team name change. Getting away from Team Holmes. Operation Brett Gate, and Addy is your daddy. We didn't even mention that Coach Holmes, with the special edition interview, guarantees a win and goes out and gets it.
That's true. Brett did. His team came out and performed, and Primetime just fell short.
Coach, who you got in this one?
I think Addy's on the upswing. I think Brett has a good team, and they're pretty consistent with their scores. But Addy's team's scary, and I will go with Addy in this one.
Going Addy. I like Coach Holmes, and I like his confidence going forward. But I'm worried about the lopsided trade with Addy, so I am gonna go Addy as your daddy.
Next game we have Rooney Tunes and Garrett. Who you got?
I mean, this one's not hard for me. Garrett's fantasy until they can prove otherwise that they can make something happen here. I gotta go Rooney Tunes.
I agree. I'm going Rooney Tunes as well. I think Garrett shot himself in the foot when he traded away Devontae Adams and George Kittle.
Boom. Roasted.
And that is going to leave us with the game of the week. This week's game of the week, we have The Dictator versus Stapler Nation. Coach Dobby, who you got?
This one is, I think it's a great game of the week with their projections being within 2. I love the quarterback play of Josh Allen for the Dictator. I think Stapler Nation wins in the running back field, and the Dictator wins in the wide receiver field. This is a tough matchup. I'm going to go with the upset. I believe it's an upset. Stapler Nation over the Dictator.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. If Dalvin Cook was playing, this would be an automatic for me to pick the Dictator. But I just don't think he's got a strong RB2 to fill that spot. That worries me a little bit. The wide receivers are a little weak for Stapler Nation.
Something that may change your mind with that RB2 spot, though, is Tariq Cohen, the backup or split time for Chicago, did tear his ACL and is out for the year.
Bottom line here, it's tough. But I am going to go the Dictator.
I really think it's a toss-up between this matchup. If Alvin Kamara can pull another 55-point game and Aaron Jones, I see it going Stapler Nation's way. If not, I can see the Dictator as well, but I'm sticking with my pick, Stapler Nation.
All right, you heard it right here. We're wrapping it up now. Dennis, what'd you learn this week?
I learned a little bit more about the fantasy app and it got me excited for it.
Dennis, what did I learn?
You learned of the contention going on in Rooney Tunes right now, and we'll see if that affects his team going forward.
All right, what we learned brought to you by Lopsided Trades. Good luck, Garrett. As always, I'm your host, Bucky Ryan.
Here with the co-host, the Dennis Dobbs.
We'll check you out next time, boys. See you later.